All right, jumping to a superhero that we've been anticipating for a while because it's interesting because I feel like we're anticipating her for two reasons. First, Marvel female superhero that's leading a movie. But also, this is really the bridge to Endgame, which I think is, we talked about most anticipated movies. It's up there for almost everybody who's followed Marvel and their run up to Avengers Endgame. So, this was directed by Anna Boden, Ryan Fleck, done a lot of like indie movies, I believe, but
Yep. Most well known for Mississippi Grind, which was an A24
Mhm.
movie from 2015. So well liked directing duo and kind of fits that more traditional Marvel mode where we'll get like lesser known directors like a Peyton Reed who did Ant-Man, for example, and just kind of uh, craft craft them onto our vision. This is
Yeah.
not, and we'll get to this more, but this is not like a Taika Waititi or Ryan Coogler where it's like here's the check and here's the ball. Just go pitch.
Yeah.
They didn't quite get to do that, but I still think it makes more sense in terms of like the traditional thing. But in interesting choice, I would say.
It was an interesting choice, but they still delivered because this movie made close to, I think it made over 450 million worldwide, 150 million domestic, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely a success. You got Brie Larson heading this thing, Samuel L. Jackson de-aged, Jude Law, Ben Mendelsohn, Annette Bening, which I was also like, Annette Bening? Pretty crazy that she's in a Marvel movie. Um, you know, you got all these pieces, and a character who is, I don't want to say relatively unknown. She's one of the oldest Marvel characters, but maybe not as popular as the tier that's been leading recently. But it's still the first female superhero. I was like, this thing is gonna be a hit, like no matter what. I actually left feeling pretty disappointed in this movie. I don't think I was disappointed to the point of saying it's a bad movie. I still think it's good and watchable and enjoyable. But I did find myself feeling like they left a lot on the table. Did you have that same experience?
I did. I did. I immediately realized that it wasn't Spider-Man: Homecoming. It wasn't Black Panther. Two
Mhm.
movies where their protagonists were introduced in Captain America: Civil War. Captain Marvel had to set up everything from the start for the character, and as a result, really play like a more traditional origin story, one we haven't gotten since Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. Um, and given that we've since seemingly moved past that, going back to the more traditional framing of one of these stories was disappointing to me, just because the whole movie is about doing the origin. Um, and even if I separate that, this movie unfortunately felt like it had to serve so many masters and thus
Mm,
was pretty overstuffed. Like, again, has to do the whole Carol Danvers origin story front to back,
yep.
has to be set in 1995 and be a throwback movie of sorts. It has to be the earliest MCU movie to date, apart from Tony Stark flashbacks, and thus set up the Tesseract and the origins of the modern Shield with Coulson and Fury. Also
Oh,
has to give us the Kree Skrull War from the
wait.
start.
Captain America was definitely the earliest set Marvel movie.
Oh yeah, good point. Earliest modern one,
Yeah.
like he gets frozen in time. Earliest modern one, um, good catch, and also has to deal with being the first female-led story
Mm,
in the MCU,
yep.
and also, as you mentioned, has to at least tertiarily tie into Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
So it's had a lot going on, and if I think maybe all those parts would have worked better if it wasn't doing the strict normal origin, but because it was, I just feel like it felt a little cluttered to me. I think there's a lot of great moments, especially I think the movie really picks up once we touch down on Earth and really get it going into Act Two, but it starts slow,
Mm,
and I usually don't notice that on a first watch with these movies. Usually when I watch again, I'll be down. I'm like Infinity War, just rewatch it. Didn't like it as much as when I saw it in the theater. But even Captain Marvel, the first time, I'm like, this is dragging a little bit,
yep.
and like, you can just kind of see the skeleton. You
Yeah.
know, that's
No.
disappointing.
Yeah, and on top of it, on top of all those things you mentioned in terms of what it needs to do, it also kind of acts as a Nick Fury like origin. origin story in a sense
Yes, it
too. You
does.
get a lot of like how he became to be the person who brings the Avengers together, how he gets his eye patch, like all that stuff comes about. Which actually I didn't mind that. Samuel L. Jackson I thought was awesome in this movie.
Mm,
He was really fun. Definitely had the most humor to work with in this, and beyond that. There it felt like this movie, I guess him and Mendelsohn were like the two having fun. The rest felt kind of serious to me, especially Brie Larson. And this isn't the I'm not trying to say, oh, it would have been better if she smiled more. No, but I really, you have someone as charming and delightful as Brie Larson,
yeah,
and she kind of got stuck in that Vanya role from Umbrella Academy, where she was very serious and confused the whole time, so she
yeah.
didn't really get to be herself. She was always trying to piece things together.
And that's the thing. That's I think the fault of the script and the trope that is amnesiac lead. You know,
Mm,
she's so confused. We don't really get to learn more about her. She has to learn about herself along the way,
right.
and it can be a bit of a slog as a result.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like, again, yeah, like you nailed it. Like Brie Larson, she won Best Actor for Room. She's really good at handling meaty stuff, and I
Mhm.
think you get more of that at the end. But in the beginning, it's just kind of really, I don't know, just plot moving. It's
Yeah.
just, and obviously this will get compared to Wonder Woman because unfortunately these are the only two movies you can compare for this sort of thing.
Mhm.
And well, I think Wonder Woman looks way better because Patty Jenkins definitely had more visual flair for it, and that's obvious. Captain Marvel suffers from a lot of the Marvel issues with lighting, and
Mhm.
I think while there was a lot of nice color, especially in space, I think the overwhelming uh, or usual Marvel house style that usually results from shooting in Atlanta, Georgia, you
Yeah.
still notice that with this. But
Mhm.
Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, I think, kind of diverge from there. And interesting, I like choices that both of them made. Like Captain Marvel, to its credit, there is no sexualizing of the character at all,
No.
and there is no romantic subplot, even a token one. I think those should not be understated. Uh, that being said, I think Wonder Woman kind of made the character more engaging right away, but also Wonder Woman briefly was shown in BVS.
Mhm.
So not apples to oranges. But yeah, Brie Larson, unfortunately, she felt like she was handcuffed a little bit in this, which is again disappointing given the caliber of talent she is.
Yeah, and I think that again, this movie was good, but it had so much to do, and it felt like they really had to like stuff it in there, and that made things feel like it was very like in your face or too blatant, not subtle
Heavy
enough.
handed.
Even like the running through line of Brie Larson's this woman with these amazing powers, but she can't control her emotions. Like, the most stereotypical like women are too emotional thing, which I get the point in the end was to be like, well, she's actually not, and she's able to control herself just fine, whether experiences her emotions or doesn't. But it felt almost like you couldn't find a different way to maybe like put that like feminist like girl power message in there other than everybody being like you're too emotional all the time.
Mm,
Or even like the 90s stuff I felt like was very like in your face. She finds this mannequin and steals the clothes and has a very clean Nine Inch Nails t-shirt,
very
similar to her
clean, very
very
new.
clean, yeah, very clean Guns N' Roses t-shirt. That was her like beloved t-shirt for going out to the bars in her flashbacks. So just really
And
interesting. Go ahead.
yeah, there was the Nirvana drop in particular was
Right.
pretty yikes.
Yeah.
Get it, we
Which
get it, guys, we get it.
I didn't mind it, but it didn't really make sense why all of a sudden she would have this music playing there. I just wanted to put "Come As You Are," which is an amazing song. I've listened to it like 20 times since I watched the movie. Um, just a girl. That drop was awesome, and
No
that
doubt, yeah.
fight scene near the end. Did you say no doubt to name the band, or just saying no doubt it was awesome?
Yes.
Yes. Um, yeah. I mean, so did you feel like those things were in your face, or was that something I just kind of
Yeah, well, I think
walked away with?
the movie jumps tones, and
Mm,
that can kind of get in the way with that message you're talking about, where it's like a very
right.
serious, important message that should be in the movie feels like it's heavy handed in one moment. And then we have Ben Mendelsohn with a like a Slurpee of some kind, right?
Hmm.
Just chewing scenery.
Yep.
So And like in the beginning, it's very dour in the beginning, that first act, which again I think was pretty slow. Um, and then you get like those 90s flashback scenes that are different, especially the singing scenes, you know? So
Mhm.
it did feel like it jumped around a little bit, but I think by the end it started to really hone in. I think really by the time you learn that Mendelssohn as Talos is in fact a good guy, not a bad
Yeah.
guy, I think that reveal, that twist works very well and really reminded me of the Vulture twist in Homecoming, a twist that you didn't
Mhm.
really see coming. And then once you hear like, wow, that was smart, that was well done. Um, Especially for me, like the meta angle, I was like, oh, Mendelssohn, man, he's on quite the run. Orson Krennic in Rogue One, the Ready Player One guy,
Yeah.
uh, whoever, the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood. Man, he loves being a villain. Good for him. Get that money. He's gonna do it again in Marvel. Oh wait, he's a good guy. Oh, and he's funny. Hell
Yeah.
yeah! I thought he was him and Sam Jackson were probably my favorite performances.
Definitely.
Um, and I think really where that twist happens really kind of accentuates the movie hitting its stride. But unfortunately, it had to do a lot of table setting in the beginning, which makes it a
Mhm.
stops it from being a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. Mendelssohn was fantastic, and I feel like all these things kind of keep it down. And I think another thing that kind of keeps it down. This is more of a just a creation of the Marvel universe in general, but she's too powerful, like to really be an interesting character when she does discover all of her powers. So by the end, I mean, she basically just like fuck all this and just flies into space and destroys like a warcraft. Like I was like, damn, like she's so strong that I don't know if I'm really interested to see what more this character can do because I don't know how there could really be a conflict. Now, she's obviously going to have a huge part in Endgame, and Thanos seems like he could be a worthy opponent of her. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of tie all these things in. What did you think of the answer that was given the other day by I forgot who it was from Marvel, but they were talking about why hasn't Nick Fury called her before, like when Ultron was about to end the world, or Loki in the first
Right.
Avengers, and they were like, well, how do you know he hasn't? It's like,
Mm.
so you're telling me that she just sometimes responds and sometimes is like, nah, not right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
good question, I guess. I feel like those are things you just kind of have to leave at the door, you
mhm.
know? I mean, the scrolls are a big part of this movie. The scrolls have long been theorized as perhaps being the next big bad post Thanos. I mean, obviously, people have had years to theorize about what's next for Marvel after Endgame, right? And like
Mhm.
some like secret invasion s storyline with the scrolls has long been thrown out there. But the problem with that is like where the scrolls obviously they shapeshift, which I think is really cool in the movie and done well.
Yeah.
Really, I think enlightens the action sequences once they get to Earth. But if the scrolls turn out to be like, oh, remember Hawkeye in all those movies? Yeah, he was a scroll for like half that time. And it's like,
Right.
is there some real tinfoil hat shit that I don't know if we can do again after Winter Soldier's like, actually, Hydra is Shield. Fooled ya. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we can like take it to that extreme and be like, yo, Ant-Man actually was a bad guy this whole time. He just happened to be a funny bad guy. Like, I don't know if that would work.
Right.
So so yeah, I think you just kind of like you got to just ignore it. Like it's pager tech, bro. It takes a while to
Yeah.
get to her. I don't know. Think of what you need to.
Pager tech.
Or Captain Marvel's like, nah, I saw it. They got Tony. It's fine. Nah, you
Yeah.
just gotta roll with it, man.
Did you like the post credit scenes?
Um, I was surprised to actually see a scene that feels like it lifted right out of Endgame.
Yeah.
Actually show that. Not really a surprise, we knew that was happening. You can watch the Endgame trailer and see a clear spot where a person was walking in the line with the other people and they edited it out. It was clearly Captain Marvel. But still cool to see. So cool to see it. And obviously they always have the funny stinger, the one with the cat throwing up Tesseract. That
Yeah.
was funny. Um,
The cat was funny the whole time. I loved
yeah,
the
for
whole cat.
sure. And I think the payoff with the cat actually being more than just a cat worked really well. Really, I mean, the biggest laugh out loud moment in my theater,
Yeah.
anyway. Um, some of the early Entertainment Weekly like official photos, they had a Law and Larson and their whole team walking and like meeting face to face with Ronan. And I remember when they announced it's like, oh, Jomon Hansu and Lee Pace are back as Ronan and Korath. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. They weren't that great in Guardians, but they're Kree, and why not? I like those actors. And yeah, they don't get to do anything.
No.
Ronan is a glorified cameo, and frankly, I feel bad for Lee Pace. He's a very good looking man. And they're like, nah, bitch, you're going to be blue again. And you're going to say like 3 words and you're going to be happy about it.
Well, they pretty much set him up to be the Captain Marvel sequel, villain. So
Well, I don't know if they would do that though, because we know he dies in Guardians 1. So
right.
like, what's the point? I think if anything, he serves as like to tell that, oh wait, the Kree and Jan Rog, they're actually bad because they're working with Ronan. You know how bad he got. I think that's
Mhm.
kind of the point of that.
Well,
And like I like there was that one moment where like Ronan asks Jude Law's team is like about some information, and Korath's about to tell him, and then Law cuts him off. That's supposed
mhm,
to hint that Korath's going to go more extreme and work for Ronan and set up where they are in Guardians 1. It's very subtle. That's like for
mhm,
like the real heads.
yeah,
But ultimately, I feel like they were just kind of just there for longtime fans of the series and
yeah.
little else. I was actually very disappointed that Gemma Chan wasn't better. I mean,
Mhm,
obviously, anyone who didn't know about her now loves her after Crazy Rich Asians. She was
yep,
Astrid. And I'm like, oh, Gemma Chan, let's go. And at least she got to fly the ship at the end and do a little something. But man, she
right.
she didn't do much in the beginning. I was let down by that.
Wait, I want to go back to Ronan though, because he says the line like, "I'll be back for the girl" or whatever it is, and I really think that whether it's going to be him chasing her down while she's flying through trying to figure out things in space, that there will be something related to that. I don't think he'll end up. Obviously, she will end up killing him, but maybe like popping
Well,
back up.
the problem is, I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel 2, which we definitely know will happen, it was guaranteed even before the movie was a massive success. Captain
Mhm.
Marvel 2 almost surely is going to take place after Avengers Endgame, right? Ronan's already dead by then.
Well, why
So
why does it have to though? I mean, she's out in space. You have what 20 years of time that they could film between
I
two
just
stories.
I don't think they're going to do anything pre-Endgame. Endgame's a clear shift in how the MCU functions.
Gotcha.
Marvel, Panther, Spider-Man, Strange, those are our new pillars, right? There's no way they're going to go back. I mean, they're probably already doing that with the Black Widow movie. So I really don't
Mhm.
think they would go back and do like this one set in 2000. No,
Right.
I really don't think that makes too much sense because you're putting too much stock in having Captain Marvel come in for Endgame, come in out of the bullpen.
Mhm.
So to then go back, like, oh, actually, no, this happens before that. I think it's just unnecessarily confusing to the audience.
Right. I can see that. It could make sense. Any last thoughts on Endgame? I feel like oh wait, we didn't really talk about Jude Law. How did you feel about his performance?
I mean, I love Jude Law. Jude Law's awesome, and
Yeah, he's great.
he's good in this too. And they didn't make him blue, you know,
Mhm.
which is actually explained because the Kree, less pure blood Kree look less blue, and that's all the explanation I need. I liked him. He starts off as more of like an Obi-Wan esque figure, old trainer.
Mhm.
And then becomes the bad guy. It's funny they were keeping his character name close to the vest uh, up until like the week before the movie came out because Jan Rock's pretty well known as a Captain Marvel villain. So I guess they didn't want to spoil that. But again, once you get halfway through, you realize Mendelssohn's a good guy. You know how the rest plays out. But I liked him.
Yep.
I thought he was effective. Annette Betting though, I thought she was just kind of there. Um,
Yeah.
they just need someone to play that role. I mean, they've done this countless times in Marvel because they just can throw checks. I mean, remember Glenn Close is in Guardians
Mhm.
1, and Gary
Right.
Shandling is in Winter Soldier, like in
Yep.
these thankless parts. So it happens all the time. But yeah, I like Jude Law. I thought he was cool,
Yeah, and
and he's not dead, which I think is cool for future potential.
definitely. I've seen people kind of saying Annette Benning's role was a bit confusing because she basically had 3 different roles.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, whatever her human name was, Marvel, and the AI.
Supreme intelligence.
Yeah, Supreme Intelligence. But I actually didn't find it that way. I felt it was pretty easy to
Yeah,
understand
same.
that, and I thought though there's issues with the script being unnecessarily, I think, confusing at points, that was not one of them for me. I don't
Yeah.
know. Any last thoughts on this movie?
Well, to that point, apparently there was a deleted scene. This is just conjecture; we don't have it confirmed. But apparently there was a deleted scene of Jan Rog going to Supreme Intelligence. And remember, it shows you who you respect
Most
the most,
admire. Yeah.
or yeah. And in that scene, Jan Rog sees himself. Thought that was a cool visual. But it's funny because in the comics, you can just Google Supreme Intelligence. You'll see the Wikipedia article. It's just this big green head with like these tubes and shit. Some really out there shit.
Some Wizard of Oz
Um,
shit.
And Marvel often will change things to make them more palatable to the tone of their universe. I think of
Yeah.
Ego in Guardians 2. He does not look like Kurt Russell in the
No,
comics. But
doesn't it?
yeah, I didn't find it confusing either.
No. We're what, a month out from Endgame now? What,
April 26th, end of April.
26? So about 6 weeks out. So, Captain Marvel probably has what, a 2 week run before us hits theaters and dominates conversation. Seems like that's going to be very good. And then we're on to Endgame.
Yeah, and what's interesting? Disney is also releasing Dumbo at the end of the month between two of its heaviest hitters. Interesting choice, I have to say.
Yeah, especially because Dumbo looks pretty good. Big cast, too.
It does, but I'm also worried about its box office potential
Like, who
because it's
cares
from
about
the
Dumbo?
30s and doesn't have the nostalgia of Beauty and the Beast,
Yeah.
So
Well,
interesting calendar decision. We'll see how it turns out.
we got a lot to talk about, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you're listening to this, so that you can get all the podcasts as they come out.